Hello. Every day we get headlines about more and more cases. Not deaths, not even hospitalizations, but mere cases. People who have merely taken a test and tested positive, even though they're healthy. And this is being used to justify the continuing and ever more draconian COVID restrictions. How absurd. And the one weird thing about the test is this: if you test positive, you are told that you are definitely a walking biohazard and you must self isolate for a period of time. Yet, if you test negative, you don't get any special privileges. You're still expected to wear a mask and social distance and follow all the other COVID restrictions because you still might have it. It's completely absurd. So why would anyone bother taking a test? But anyway, I'm going to direct you to this article linked below from the Off Guardian, off-guardian.org. Great resource for COVID truth. The World Health Organization released a guidance memo on December the 14th, warning the high cycle thresholds on PCR tests will result in false positives. Many people have been talking about false positives for months now, because this test is not fit for purpose. And it goes on to say that Carrie Mullins, the inventor of the PCR test, stated that this is not fit for purpose. It should not be used for infectious diseases. He died last year, which I think is perhaps more than a coincidence, because if he was alive, he might be a whistleblower, but he's dead. Anyway, basically, what it says they do is they take this test involves taking tiny fragments of your DNA or RNA, and your RNA is your DNA being converted for cellular functions. That's the best way as I understand it. I'm not the best person at explaining medical concepts, but I'll give it a go. And they replicate them until it becomes something large enough to identify. Now, what this article is saying, what the WHO is acknowledging now, is that they've replicated these DNA and RNA fragments too much. They're getting too big. It talks about the cycle threshold, the CT value, and the higher the cycle threshold, in other words, the how much more it's been replicated, the less likely you are to be detecting anything significant. So you're more likely to see something with a higher CT value, but it doesn't really necessarily mean very much. And it's saying here that the CT value typically for the tests is around 35, and at that kind of rate, that allows you to see all kinds of false positives. It states in this article that if you have to go more than 40 cycles to amplify a single copy gene, there is something seriously wrong with your PCR. And CQ values higher than 40 are suspect because of the implied low efficiency and generally should not be reported. But yet this is a test that's being used, and this is being used to drive all this whole COVID lockdown policy and the continuing COVID regime. Despite all this, it is known that many labs around the world have been using PCR tests with CT values over 35, even in the low 40s. And it goes on to explain why why they believe that the World Health Organization are now saying it's wrong. Why are they calling it out now? Many independent doctors and scientists were calling this out months ago. Why are the WHO now suddenly saying it? Well, it goes on to say that maybe they don't need this test for much longer because we now have a vaccine. So when people start taking the vaccine, they'll get fewer people testing positive for the test, so they can use the argument, oh, well, the vaccine worked now. No, you changed the test. We need to get the truth out about these things, because they're going to claim the vaccine either worked, or they're going to claim when people get sick for various different reasons because of the vaccine, that's another strain of COVID. It's a double-edged sword. But anyway, here's something good. Another website, pcrclaims.co.uk. You can make a claim against the government because millions of people's lives have been adversely affected because of this very test, this fake, this faulty test, which is not fit for purpose, but yet has been used to drive the whole COVID policy and continue the COVID regime. Now, there's some excellent videos on this with the founder of this this case, Joe Rogers. Excellent video on the website, and she explains how millions of people are suffering in silence. The mainstream media is completely ignoring all those people who are suffering because of the lockdown restrictions, the loneliness, the isolation, the stress, the loss of businesses, the financial concerns, mental health, suicides through the roofs. Yet the BBC won't report that. It's just COVID, COVID, COVID. COVID trumps all. Well, they need to get an end. COVID must not trump all anymore. I say that loud and clear, because people are suffering and dying because of that. And I've submitted a claim myself. I've explained how I have been adversely affected by this, by the policies that are being driven by this PCR test. And there's a little survey you can fill in, a little questionnaire, and many people will have been affected far more than me. But I'm going to leave the links below. I'll leave the link to the Off Guardian article. I'm going to leave the link to the PCR claims, because we need to bring those people who are using fraudulent science and data to curtail our human rights to justice. This is not acceptable. We cannot continue with this pretense that we're in a public health emergency. They need to prove it. Thanks for watching.